joining us across the fence, I'm Fran Stoddard. UVM recently celebrated 50 years of environmental education, ahead of its time. Today, the word is sustainability. It's everywhere, a broad term used in education, business, community building, and the environment. People involved in sustainability work are futurists who contemplate how we can create a world that is sustainable, that supports nature and people. This visionary thinking has been part of Shelburne Farm's mission since the beginning. I'd like to welcome Amy Arandia Ostenston. She's a professional learning facilitator in education for sustainability at Shelburne Farms, along with elementary school teacher and student of sustainable education, Julie Norman, to talk about why this kind of thinking is important in education at all levels and how sustainability manifests itself in schools. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So, Amy, I'd first like to just clarify terms. How would you define education for sustainability?
Yeah, so we really think about education for sustainability within the desired outcome. So if the desired outcome is to create thriving, dynamic, and sustainable communities, then what education for sustainability does is to prepare students to have the skills, the knowledge, and the values to make decisions so that we can have those sustainable communities today and in the future.
Wow, and so Julie, how does that look and feel different from traditional education? You've been an elementary school teacher for some time. How does this kind of education look different in schools?
Traditional public school education often looks like a teacher giving skills and knowledge to their students through the guidelines that have been proposed through a teacher guidebook. And we often do that instruction in siloed content areas. Mm-hmm. So I will teach math lesson from Unit 3, lesson 15 today at this time of day, and that will be very different from the reading lesson I teach, which might be different from the writing lesson I teach later on in the day. That also involves students sitting in hard plastic chairs for 5 hours a day, doing most of their learning through the teacher or through reading that they're doing. When I think about education for sustainability, I think about giving children an invitation to explore their communities. They're exploring their social communities, thinking about that in concentric rings from the smallest community of their classroom or their family, growing outward to their neighborhood and their town and their state and their nation and their planet. And I also think about inviting them to explore their natural communities as well, many ecosystems that surround them. It's very hands-on, place-based learning that is very interdisciplinary.
Great. And food systems, of course, here as well. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got gardens, and it's very exciting. So, Amy, why is sustainability education particularly important now? Why now?
Well, I think what we're seeing right now are a lot of indicators that not everybody's doing well around the world and locally. There are great inequities between who is thriving and who is not, and that is just not sustainable going forward. So what we're seeing are experiences where access to food, clean water, housing, and just a way to live in a healthy kind of state in community and relationship with others, both locally and globally, that is not happening. And so we're also facing the climate crisis, and it's become more and more evident to us here in the Northeast that that's just not a faraway problem, but that's a problem here as well.
Right. And yet you also, we'll talk about the hopeful piece, because that sounds like we've got all this stuff to solve.
Yes.
But Julie, before we get to that, why were you drawn to this work?
I, like many teachers, joined the career of public education in order to help my fellow community members have access to their greatest version of themselves and have freedom to explore their own best life. And what has happened to me, and I suspect has happened to many educators along the way who are devoted to public education and believe in that offering to our communities, is that we start to wonder, who are we serving? And as a teacher, I'm somebody who likes to do the right thing, and I want the district to be supportive of my work, and that's often measured in test scores around literacy and math. And I think about how that really sits with me in a tension between serving my administrators and serving children and their families. And how do we spend children's time is a really big concern to me. And I think there's a huge opportunity to not only help children live their best lives, but to do that by being engaged in work that creates a group of future voters, farmers, lawmakers who are really critical thinkers, who are systems thinkers, who consider how their actions impact others. And when I was drawn to education for sustainability, I realized that thinking through systems learning with children was a real avenue to help them progress to be members of communities who consider collective wellness and not just personal success.
Right. And they get it. And Amy, Shelburne Farms has been doing this for quite a while, working with teachers and teaching teachers. What are you seeing in terms of what kinds of people enroll in your programs?
Yeah, so we see a range of teachers from K-12 education and in multiple different roles. Some, of course, we have science teachers, but we also have math teachers, history teachers, literacy teachers, art teachers, music teachers, librarians. We get the full range of who's in schools and working in education. We also have a lot of local teachers that we're engaged with as a local organization, but also we draw from across the Northeast and nationally and also internationally, especially now that we are doing work online and we can connect with teachers around the globe more easily.
And you do have people from all over.
We
around
absolutely
the globe.
do.
Some that are able to get here, but many just online.
Yes, and it's kind of a new avenue of access to this kind of professional learning now that so many more people are comfortable with being online.
Right.
Yeah.
So many Shelburne Farms professional learning students wanted a degree or certification. I heard for their sustainability studies, and so Shelburne Farms partnered with UVM. UVM now offers several graduate degrees, including a doctorate. Julie, you're one of those graduate students. Why are those certifications important to you and your cohorts?
Thanks for that question. I think about a few things in response to that. One is certainly when you can add more letters, another title to your signature on your email, people think, what is that? And the more we can spread that conversation around what is education for sustainability, the better. The time to do this was 30 years ago, but at least we're addressing it now. And so to spark that conversation, the more people who are involved in it, the better. But really, I sought it out from my own developing set of knowledge. And what I found is that not only has this program through UVM and Shelburne Farms helped deepen my understanding of systems thinking and sustainability, but it has provided the space and time and encouragement I've needed to really dive into my own actions, to really view myself as a change maker. So to move from somebody who's sitting in a zone of frustration and worry to progress down that path into somebody who's thinking about actions and improving systems. It's been a really fabulous journey.
It's interesting. John, our director, just had up a systems chart, actually, that speaks a little bit to, you go from waste at home all the way to advocating at City Hall. So this is kind of complicated, but you really get into just about everything, right?
Everything. I mean, education for sustainability is really about making enduring, thriving communities, right? And then thinking about that globally, that all of these communities that are sustainable, doing well across the globe, but also interrelated, and students and learners who become decision makers in our communities to value that well-being globally is really important.
Well, interestingly, UVM has actually a general requirement that all undergrads take a sustainability course. That's quite something and unique. And there are about 100 courses they can choose from. So it really is across the board, all disciplines. It shows a real commitment on the part of UVM to this issue. And I imagine Shelburne Farms was on the ground floor to help make this multi-year piece happen.
Yeah, so two of the lead educators at UVM who kind of created that proposal to push through that general education commitment to sustainability. We're part of the Sustainability Faculty Fellows program, which Shelburne Farms co-created and co-hosted with UVM faculty. And the point of that was to support higher education faculty to create curriculum or adapt the curriculum they were teaching to incorporate sustainability education.
Right. And now that Shelburne Farms also has the Institute for Sustainable Schools, which is just kind of incorporating all that we've been talking about, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's a big umbrella to hold all of the programs for professional learning that are available to teachers like Julie. That they can choose from depending on the pathway of what's interesting to them, whether it's food systems education or climate change education or place-based education.
Awesome. And quickly, Julie, what kinds of questions do students or you as a tackle? What are the questions you ask?
Well, for example, this year I was working with second graders, and I implemented a Thrice weekly Discovery Lab, which was social studies and science, place-based learning that did connect to our literacy curriculum. And through those explorations, we focused on several conversation threads, and we were asking these questions of who am I? Who are we as a community? What are our connections with one another? So really having students think about interdependence with their social communities and within the ecosystems that surround us in Burlington. And then how do my actions impact my community? And that really helps students begin to think about themselves as change makers and thinking about there's always a chain of events and reactions. And so our choices can impact others, human and more than human, in positive ways or in compromising ways. And so to start thinking about that, and it's very powerful for children.
We are going to have some fabulous new leaders in our community. To find out more about education for sustainability, you can visit the Shelburne Farms website or the UVM website. For UVM, it's under the Department of Education, so uvm.edu/cess/DOE. Both are right there with more information. Julie and Amy, thank you so much for coming in and explaining sustainability education for us.
It's an honor to be here.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.